I've got enough confirmation. If you can, just keep yourselves muted while I go through this, and while we go through, it'll be a lot easier to manage the 100+ of you that are on here. I think we're up to 127 now, so it's a lot of people. If you have comments or questions as we go, please put them in the chat. And I have someone here, Rachel Hayes, who's our Associate Dean for Faculty and Research, is also on this Zoom and will be keeping track of your questions and will help facilitate feeding them to me so we can get some answers as we get to that portion. I'm going to start. My name is Jess Taverna. I know some of the names I've recognized, so some of you I think may know me. I'm the Executive Director for Undergraduate Programs. And I'm going to go through a quick slide deck. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking at you, but I wanted to go over some of the basics and key things, common questions we've been hearing, remind folks of the process and the deadlines for the credit, no credit option, and then we will open it up to questions. So, basics about the policy. So the university made this announcement a few weeks ago that they would be allowing students to select credit, no credit for any of your classes. Those of you who aren't aware, normally there is a limit on how many credit hours you can choose credit, no credit for over the course of your entire degree program. Credits for the spring and summer for which you opt into credit, no credit will not count against that limit. So you don't have to worry about that limit. You can choose credit, no credit for any number of classes that you want. And if you weren't aware, the university is extending this option also for the summer. I'm not sure if a full notice has gone out, and the registrar's office website, it doesn't look like has been updated with all of that detail yet, but I do have some of those deadlines that I'll share with you in a minute. So this is now the policy for both spring and summer. You can elect credit, no credit for one class, multiple classes, all of your classes, or none of your classes. It is entirely up to you. It won't count against, again, as I said, the U of U's limit that they typically have on credit, no credit. You do have to earn a C- or better to receive credit. So keep that in mind. In some cases, a D range grade might otherwise be considered passing to fill a certain requirement. But in order to earn credit, you do have to get a C- or better. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to that. Regardless of the outcome, if you earn credit or if you end up not earning credit, those do not have any GPA impact. So having a CR or an NC on your record will not impact your GPA at all. Something to be aware of, your instructors will not know if you have selected the credit, no credit option unless you choose to tell them. The way the grading system works, they will simply go in and enter the letter grade that you have earned. And then if you have selected credit, no credit in the system, it will convert it to credit or no credit based on the letter grade that your faculty member assigned to you. So your instructors don't know if you've made this choice. They're just going through and grading just as they would otherwise. If you want to elect credit, no credit, there is a form in CIS. And I've got a few different links here that I will go through that'll be on the screen. I unfortunately can't show you exactly where that form is in CIS because my CIS access doesn't let me get at it. So I tried a few times and wasn't able to do that, but you should be able to access a form in CIS. And if you're having any issues or trouble with that, you can contact your academic advisor or the registrar's office. You can also revoke the credit, no credit if you change your mind. And so I'll talk a little more about the deadlines for that, but there is an option after you select it, a later deadline to go back if you decide, hey, wow, I actually got a great grade on that final paper that I just submitted and I didn't think I was going to do as well on, and now I want my grade back. You can go in and make that choice. A few things that are specific for the Eccles School. So you can elect credit, no credit for any Eccles degree requirement course. So you can make this choice if you would like to for pre-business, for your upper division core, and for your major classes. Normally, as I think most of you probably know, you're supposed to take those for a letter grade. In this situation, we are waiving that. And so you can make this choice for any of your Eccles degree requirements. If you do select credit, no credit for any of your courses, you will still be eligible for upper division and major admission. Depending on which courses you chose credit, no credit for, that process may look a little bit different. So if you selected credit, for example, for a course that is normally the gateway into your major, the major admission committee will do a holistic review. They'll look for other indicators in your record, in your academic performance, to make sure that you are a good fit and are likely to be successful in the major. But having that credit grade will not preclude you from being eligible for upper division or major or minor admission. You will remain in good standing with any of your current Eccles scholarships. So if you have scholarships through the Eccles school, there is no problem with choosing credit, no credit. You will also be eligible for future Eccles scholarships if you ended up selecting credit, no credit for some of your courses this semester. And the credit grade will fill any prerequisites for follow-on courses. So if you chose, let's say you're taking Finance 3040 right now, and you decided to take that credit, no credit, and Finance 3040 is a prerequisite for a number of other finance classes, you will still be able to go into those later classes with a credit grade. So essentially, you should feel free to choose credit, no credit, with knowing that none of the Eccles School processes, policies, scholarships, etc., will be negatively impacted. If you have questions about degree requirements for other majors, if you have scholarships from other sources across campus or other places outside of the Eccles School, if you are thinking about applying for admission to non-Eccles programs, if you have another major or a minor that requires admission process, you want to contact those departments or programs directly to confirm how they are handling the credit, no credit situation. So what's written up here is how Eccles is treating it for our programs and our scholarships and our courses, but you want to make sure that you check with any other programs that you're a part of or have funding from to make sure that you know what their policies are. Some deadline reminders. So April 10th, which is Friday, is the last day to elect the credit, no credit option. That is also the last day that you can withdraw yourself from any classes. So that's withdrawal deadline that allows you to actually withdraw yourself without having to go through any kind of petition was also extended. So April 10th, which is Friday, is the last day to choose the credit, no credit option. You then have another week to decide if you really want to stick with that choice. So if you chose credit, no credit, and then again, maybe you get some grades that come in and you realize, oh wow, I'm doing a lot better than I thought. You have another week to decide if you want to revoke the credit, no credit option. So you can change your mind between this Friday and next Friday. For summer, and again, more information will be coming from the university. This was a decision that was made very recently. But for summer, you will also have the option to select credit, no credit, based on the same rules that apply for spring, with just some different deadlines. And so I've included those deadlines here. I don't want to spend too much time getting ahead of ourselves. For summer, more information will come out from the registrar's office. I'm sure they will update their FAQ page to reflect all those summer deadlines as soon as they can. So how do you decide if you should select credit, no credit? I want to start by making clear this is really a very personal and individual situation. So what I'm not going to be able to do in this session today is kind of answer every individual person's particular circumstances. It depends a lot on where you are in your degree program, what you're planning to do next, what your goals are, how you're feeling about your classes, what's been going on in your life this semester. Everyone's situation is different. We're all struggling. I know that all of you are wrestling with all kinds of difficult and challenging situations. So all of those things really should be taken into account in deciding what is ultimately best for you. So the first piece of advice, and the thing I would strongly recommend, is that you meet with your academic advisor to go through the specifics of your situation and make sure that you're able to make the most informed choice that you can. I would also encourage you to talk to your instructors. You might be doing better than you realize in a class. And so if you are feeling like you're not really totally sure, check in with your instructors, find out where you stand, make sure you know where you stand before you make this decision. And again, if you're kind of waffling and on the fence and you've got that Remember that you can make a choice today to go with credit, no credit, and then you can take another week or so to decide if you actually want to stick with that choice. Keep in mind, again, as I said earlier, you do need to earn at least a C- to receive that credit. And so if you do go with the credit, no credit option, you want to know what you need to do to make sure you at least get that credit. So don't just check out. Talk to your instructors again, know where you stand, and make sure that you do everything you can so that if you do select credit, no credit, you actually earn that CR grade. Check with all of your scholarship sources and any other academic programs you're part of to confirm their policies. As I said, within the Eccles School, essentially there is no negative impact on anything that we do here, but you want to make sure that you know if that's true for other programs that you're part of or might want to be part of. If you are thinking about graduate school or worried about how this might look on your transcript, worried about how graduate schools are going to deal with this, I can't tell you exactly how every graduate school will deal with it. As with every university right now handling the current crisis, graduate schools are going to have different rules. So I would encourage you to check in if you are already applying for programs, you know where you're interested in going, reach out to those programs. If you are thinking about professional schools like med school, law school, dental school, things like that, I encourage you to talk to the pre-med or pre-law advisors about exactly how they think this will play out. But the big thing I want to remind you of is that this is the norm. So I am continuously looking at news and updates and information that's coming from campuses all over the country. And this is happening all over the country. I'm not going to say it's universal. Obviously, I don't know what every single institution is doing, but by and large, every program that I am aware of or connected to or familiar with, business schools and lots of other universities are going this route. So as you think about graduate school, as you think about potential future plans, recognize that folks will know spring 20 and summer 20 were unique. They were a different kind of time and a different situation. And this will be seen as the norm. So it will not be unusual for students to have credit, no credit, pass, fail grades on their records from lots of different universities. And so I think you want to keep that in mind, that you will not be disadvantaged in that sense. This is really kind of the standard that I have seen across campuses. And then one final note is, if you're wrestling with what the best choice for you is, keep in mind that there are other possible options. So selecting credit, no credit may be the best choice for you in one or more of your classes. It may be that withdrawing from one or more of your classes is ultimately the right call. That's a decision, again, I would encourage you to talk through with your academic advisor. There may also be the possibility of taking an incomplete. That's a decision that would be made in conjunction with your instructor that would essentially allow you to have some more time to finish up a final assignment, a final paper, a final exam. Those are really, again, personal decisions. Taking an incomplete means that you're extending your time working on a specific class. You want to really think about realistically, is that something you're going to have time for, a month or 2 months from now? If you're planning to take summer classes and you still have a spring class to finish up, how are you going to balance that and manage that time? So the decision here on whether to take credit, no credit, to withdraw, to maybe talk to your instructor about incomplete, those are things where you want to talk to your advisor, you want to talk to your instructor, you want to talk to anyone in any programs or scholarships that you're part of, and really get as much information as you can to make the decision that feels the best for you. Here's a link for some resources, and this forum, this Zoom session, is being recorded. And so we will be posting it on our website. The Eccles School COVID resources and FAQ page will make sure that we get this linked there. So you'll be able to go back through this, watch it, and be able to access this PowerPoint and click on some of these links. So if you don't have a chance to actually write them down right now, that's totally fine. But you'll be able to go, the University Registrar's website has a list of questions and things to think about for credit, no credit. The Eccles School, on our main page, there's a link for all of our COVID resources, FAQs, which include information about this. We have a credit, no credit info page that tackles some of the questions you might have about how to make your decision. And then also the link here for our undergraduate advising services, where you can schedule an appointment with your advisor to talk through some of these decisions. Okay, I'm going to get that screen back up just briefly. But now I am going to turn it over, and I've been seeing lots of questions coming in through the chat. I have not been actually reading any of them, but hopefully Rachel has. So Rachel, if you are able to.
Yeah, I will go ahead and take you through the questions that weren't answered along the way. And in some cases they were answered, but maybe it'll help to reiterate. There was a question about after a student submits the request for credit, no credit, are there any other steps that need to be taken?
There are not. So it will go through the registrar's office, will process those requests. If you have any concern or question about whether your request went through, I would recommend following up directly with the registrar's office, either calling or emailing them. They have a general email on that FAQ page as well, because they're going to be the only ones who will see it. So like I said, your instructors don't know it. I wouldn't have access to see that. Nobody really knows that except for the registrar's office. So once you submit the form, you should be good to go. But as with anything electronic, if you have any doubts, I would, and you don't get a confirmation or something like that, I would email or call the registrar's office.
Okay, there are a lot of questions that around how late the credit, no credit could be revoked. And I know that that you clarified that it's the 17th, but several students have asked whether there's any chance that it would be extended until after grades have been submitted, or whether they can do it after they've seen their final grade.
So the messages that I've heard, I know this is something that I have been told has come up in conversations with Central Campus and with the registrar's office. And everything I've heard is that officially no. So there will not be a default extension of that. There is, however, a petition process. There's always been a petition process to either elect or revoke credit, no credit after the deadlines. And so there is a possibility that you could go through that petition process. I don't know exactly, those decisions are made by the registrar's office again. And so I think it would be a case-by-case decision that they would be making, but they will not be extending that deadline formally. So you would have to go through a petition process.
Okay, and several people have asked why that is the case, and I'm not sure that that you have an answer for that, but I just wanted to mention that people are asking why is it the university has made that decision.
Yeah, and I don't have the answer for that. Unfortunately, I haven't been in that level of discussion and where that's been made, but I will certainly pass on to my contacts at the registrar's office that this is a question that has come up repeatedly. I've heard it from other sources outside of this forum as well, and just maybe ask them to make a statement, clarify for students, and particularly since the process will be similar for the summer, the deadline is earlier than the actual end of those summer sessions. So it will be very, very much a mirror of what they've done for spring. So I will pass on that this is a pretty consistent piece of feedback and a concern for students, and ask them to at least maybe address that in some of their information.
Okay, and people are also asking if there's an email or a contact where they can let their voices be heard. So maybe that's something you could post after the forum today, along with the video, if there's an email that would help them with that. Let's see, I'm trying to keep up with the new questions and the old questions. Someone did ask whether if you decide to revoke, do you use the same link? It is still a link within CIS. It's going to be a different link. If you go to the registrar's office FAQ page, one of their questions is, I changed my mind, what do I do? And it's got the link right there on how you go about changing and revoking it. Okay, so there have also been questions about a couple of different questions asking about these up to 6 credits of pre-business coursework as credit or no credit. I think that this doesn't count with the spring and summer, but maybe you want to address whether students are restricted to 6 credits of pre-business coursework as credit, no credit.
So that applies to the process by which you would be evaluated for admission. So if you can have up to 6 credits of your pre-business done credit, no credit. And if you meet the other admission criteria, still be guaranteed automatic admission, no questions asked, you go right through, no problem. If you have taken more than 6 credits through credit, no credit, that's simply going to trigger a committee review so that we can look at other parts of your academic record, and with the idea that when we say, yes, you're admitted to upper division, we want to make sure that we know that you're likely to be successful. We want to set you up for success. We want to know that you're in a good position. So it's not that you can't do more than 6 credits of pre-business for credit, no credit, but if you do choose to do that, you'll go through the committee review process for admission, just so that we can really look at everything and see that full picture and know that we feel good about moving you forward.
Okay, so a lot of people have asked questions about admission to coterminal bachelor master's degrees here at the U, who they would contact to find out how grad schools, different schools were handling the credit, no credit grades in applications for grad schools.
I can speak for Eccles. I know that, so our graduate programs will not, again, there won't be any penalty or problems if you selected credit, no credit. It may, depending on exactly what courses you made that choice for and what the admission requirements are for that grad program. Again, like upper division, it may trigger just a slightly different review process. So if normally they would look at certain classes and you have credit, no credit grades in those classes, they might look more fully at your record, but typically graduate admissions are pretty holistic review processes anyway. So I can say for sure for Eccles programs, there will be no problem. If you selected credit, no credit, they're going to look at your application. They're going to be absolutely okay with those grades and know that that was a, a choice that was available and frankly kind of expected to some degree this semester. If you have other specific graduate programs in mind, you're going to want to reach directly out to those programs and find out how they're looking at this. But again, my sense in general is that, and I think someone asked, in other schools, they're actually doing this the opposite way. Pass, fail, credit, no credit is the default. And if you want a letter grade, you actually have to proactively choose a letter grade. So different universities are handling this differently. I think what that means is that overall, when graduate programs are reviewing applicants and they look at their spring 2020 or summer 2020 grades, they are going to be taking into account that this was a different time, a different set of circumstances. They won't necessarily know exactly what the rules were for credit, no credit choices at any given institution, and I don't think they'll care. That's a kind of digging in legwork that frankly graduate admission programs are unlikely to do, right? So it's going to be more about, yes, we know this was an unusual time. Yes, we know a lot of students selected credit, no credit, or pass fail options. We're okay with that. Is I think in general how I expect graduate programs to handle it. But if you're in a position where you kind of know already certain programs you're interested in, it definitely doesn't hurt to reach out to them.
And then there have been some other specific questions about if the program needs a specific grade in a prereq, would there be any effect from choosing credit? Would that affect the way that your application is evaluated? That maybe, oh, this must have not been a good grade, sort of thing.
So from that perspective, I don't think so. Everything that I have heard in communication with our faculty, for example, I've heard from another number of faculty members who've asked the same questions you all have been asking. So why don't they wait and have the deadline be after grades are available and students can actually really know where they're at? Why don't they make the pass fail the default and just give it to everybody? And if you want a letter, you have to choose it. So faculty are thinking about this in very much the same way that all of you are. And those faculty members are the same folks who are involved in admission decisions. So for example, I met with all of the major directors. So the folks who oversee the admission process into each of our Eccles majors. And all of them were universally understanding of everything that's going on this semester. They recognize that students are going to select credit, no credit for lots of different reasons. It doesn't mean that you are trying to get out of a class that you weren't being successful in. It could simply mean that you had, a lot going on in life and that you needed to manage that. And this was the best way for you to do that. So without question, every major director I spoke to expressed that same feeling. What they are going to do in looking at your record is then look at other classes you've taken, other parts of your academic record to make sure that they see signs of success in their fields. but there will not be any penalty for choosing the credit, no credit option. And there won't be any assumptions made about what that means, because our faculty know that there's lots of different reasons why students are, having to make decisions this semester, and what that looks like is going to vary, and they won't assign any assumptions to those choices.
So there have been a couple of questions relating to the effect of a credit, no credit, or well, once you've selected credit, no credit, if you get a credit, how that affects your GPA. And we want to emphasize it doesn't affect your GPA. It has, it will not be counted as a C-. It just does not affect your GPA. It's not added in. And so there's also a question relating to job applications. So we've been talking about graduate schools and getting into majors at the university, but what, do we have any sense for whether this is going to affect people's job application success afterwards?
Yeah, so my understanding and my sense from talking with some folks in our Business Career Service Center is similarly employers, particularly employers that, that we work really closely with, and that we know, first of all, not every employer looks at a transcript. So something to keep in mind is that, I personally have never applied to a job where they ask for my transcript. And so, that's part of it. But for those that do, those employers that ask for transcripts understand education, they understand transcripts, they understand how to read them and what they're looking for. And the communication I've gotten from Katie Abbey, who's our assistant dean over our Business Career Services and Corporate Outreach team, is that just like graduate schools and programs, employers know that this was a different semester. This is a unique time and moment. And again, this is going to be something they're going to be seeing from graduates from all over the country, because like I said, almost everybody's doing this. And so I don't think they'll look at a student, an applicant who maybe graduated a year ago and doesn't have this factor. And then they'll see that, you had, some credit, no credit grades from spring 2020. We know what that means. And so I don't think there's any reason to be worried about it.
So several people have also asked about whether it looks bad if you take credit, no credit for some of your classes and not for others, whether if you're going to do it, you should just do it for all of them, or whether you should, be selective about it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to be concerned about how that looks sort of visually, or the message that it sends when someone's looking at your overall semester. I think the decision of whether you should do it for all, none, one, two is all about everything you have going on and what makes the best sense for you in terms of the workload in different classes, the timing of that workload, how that matches up with, you may have classes where the bulk of the work is done already and you don't have as much left, and it's going to be perfectly reasonable for you to get through that class well and easily. And then the other hand, you may have a class that still has a major paper and a major final exam left, and you may have been doing okay 2 weeks ago, but now circumstances have changed in your life that's going to make that harder to get through that. That's all part of the story of what we're living right now with the coronavirus and the situation. So I think it is, I don't think anyone's looking and saying, oh, I wonder why. I mean, one of the messages I've heard from faculty is that they know, they've been hearing from students who are, and one of the reasons I mentioned talking to your instructors is that they've been hearing from students who are doing great. They're getting A's in their class, but they're saying, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll go credit, no credit, because I'm just not sure. And so I think we know that students will make that choice for all kinds of reasons. And again, there's no universal message that is sent by the way your transcript appears at the end of the semester.
So there was a question about what happens if somebody decides not to go credit, no credit, and then gets sick near the end of the semester. So it's like you're kind of taking a bit of a risk by doing that. And what if you end up being affected in a different way later than anticipated?
Yeah, I think that's where the most potential option is going to be the petition. So again, in any semester, there are always options to either get late withdraw or to select credit, no credit later in a term for non-academic reasons. So things that happen that are outside of your direct performance in the classroom that impact that performance. So that petition process has always been available. My sense from communication with the registrar's office is that they will be, I don't want to speak direct, put too many words in their mouths, but they will be more flexible and they will be more open in looking at petitions in this moment because of everything that's going on. So I think if you choose to stick it out and you get down to that very end and you get sick, something happens, that petition option is available to you. And my sense is that the registrar's office will be very accommodating whenever there's a reasonable situation that's occurred. Your academic advisors will have access to that petition information. It is also on the registrar's website. You can also always contact me directly and I can help facilitate it.
One question that someone asked earlier was if you have a lower grade earlier and you're retaking a class and you switch to credit, no credit, will the credit replace the earlier lower grade?
Yes, it will. So the credit will remove the earlier grade from your GPA calculation. It won't add anything to your GPA calculation because, as we've said, it doesn't have a GPA impact, but it will replace that original grade and pull that grade out of your GPA.
Someone asks whether credit, no credit would affect your summa or magna cum laude graduation.
It will not. That is based off of, it will not in any direct sense. So that's based off of your GPA and then where that GPA puts you in the percentiles that you have to be in to earn those honors at graduation. And since credit, no credit has no impact on your GPA, it'll just be your GPA is calculated based on the rest of your courses that do have letter grades. It is and this is one of the things where you want to think again carefully and talk to your instructor. If you're doing better than you realize, you might want that letter grade because it might actually help your GPA in that calculation, depending on where you actually sit in the class. But at the end of the day, the university is simply going to, again, calculate those GPAs based on the letter grades that you do have, and then people get ranked as they always would. So.
And we're getting a couple of other questions that I think tie back to what we talked about earlier, but in the other direction. If you choose credit, no credit now, but then later you realize you would have gotten an A in the class, can you switch back? And so this is kind of the same question that we had before, but in reverse.
Yeah, and so if it's if you make that, you do have until the 17th to revoke on your own. So up through the 17th, you can pull back and switch it back to a letter grade with no other process, just doing it through your own CIS page. After that date, it will have to go through that petition with the registrar's office. I think, like I said, I can't directly speak for them, but knowing how frequently this question about why was the deadline earlier, we wish it had been later, has been coming up, I will certainly, like I said, provide that feedback to them. I suspect that that may influence how they look at those petitions. Can't promise anything. So I can't say for sure, yet they'll go ahead and check it off and let you get that letter grade, but it is absolutely still a possibility through that petition process.
So a question that was asked earlier that that I didn't get to is if someone's already been accepted into their major, but they're considering making a core class credit, no credit, would that trigger a committee review?
If you're already in your program, you are in your program. So there will be no further reviews or anything like that. So if you've been admitted, you're admitted.
And so people are asking, you know, whether the petition process should be an automatic yes, and how successful the petition process is. And I suspect you don't have any answers for that, but that's being voiced.
Yeah, I can't be the one to make the decision that it should be an automatic yes. I definitely sympathize with that side of it, and it is true. I think other universities have had different deadlines for sure. I will, like I said, pass on this feedback to the registrar's office and make sure that those at Central Campus are aware of these kinds of questions that have been coming up pretty consistently, and it's true across campus, not just with Eccles students, obviously. And so I will do that, and also ask for we have some various feedback mechanisms within Eccles, but again, some of these policies are set at a higher level. And so I'll also follow up and ask for either a direct person or an email link for students who want to voice their opinion directly to the registrar's office and other parts of campus around some of these questions, in addition to me passing on your feedback.
Someone asked earlier whether the graduate programs will be doing credit, no credit for the summer, and I think the answer to that is yes. Yes, my understanding is that is, again, universal at all levels of the school. So I don't think, I think you've addressed the questions that we had. There was one question about summer semester that was a little bit off the credit, no credit, but I suspect that people may be interested in this. Someone asks, someone says, can we ask about summer semester? Classes I want to take conflict, but now that they're online, they shouldn't conflict anymore. Can we get the time slots changed to online so that the time conflict registration error will go away?
Oh, that's actually a good wrinkle on that. So I will reach out to the registrar's office. So the Eccles School, as well as every other department across campus, is in the process of working with the registrar's office to update the schedule to reflect the way that we're going to be delivering our classes and what that looks like. That has been just, the university officially announced online last week, so that has been an ongoing process. I had not thought about the fact that as it stands, we have that registration issue. So I will reach out to the registrar's office on that and figure out what the best option or how quickly they'll be able to get things fixed so that registration piece can happen. Yeah, that's a very good point that I hadn't thought through, that right now kind of everyone's in a little bit of limbo with registration. My sense is that should be working pretty quickly to get through it, but it is a process for sure. So there's another question. So first of all, the business scholarships will not be affected. And I'm sorry, I answered that one in chat rather than out loud. There's a question about grading on a curve. And I'll go ahead and take this one because the question asks whether the people who choose to go credit, no credit in a given class will be accounted for in the class curve. And how are professors dealing with that? And so what I want to reiterate here is that the professor teaching the class does not know who is taking the class credit, no credit. So when they go through and submit grades at the end of the semester, they're going to submit them in the same way that they always do. They'll figure out what grades they would have given people. And then once they're in the system, the registrar will turn any grade that's a credit, no credit, that's above C- into credit. And so there won't be an effect. It won't be that all those people that are taking credit, no credit will be taken out of the curve. They will just be converted afterwards. And we have also suggested to faculty that they can relax some of the grading curves this semester, given all that's gone on. People are asking so then a follow-up on that is a lot of students have been counseled to speak with their professor, however, about how they're doing in the class. I don't think this has an effect because keep in mind that what's happening here is professors will go ahead and calculate grades the same way. Even if you've told them I'm taking the class pass fail, you will still have your grade calculated the same way. And the professor, when they submit it, they're not submitting a credit or a no credit grade. They're submitting your actual letter grades. So everybody will still be considered in the curve. And I can jump in because as you've been talking, I've been trying to keep up with them as well. A couple of folks have asked about a limit. So there is a limit in the university normal policy to how many courses you can select credit, no credit for typically in your undergrad career. None of these classes go against that limit. So that's been part of the policy shift that the university made for both spring and now summer. The limit is normally 15 credits total in your university and your undergraduate degree program. None of these credits. So if you selected all of your classes this semester, that will not count against that 15. So essentially these are free credit, no credits when it comes to that limit. So you don't have to worry about the limit at all. My understanding is that yes, so if you had half session classes this spring where grades were already in, you can still go in and select that credit, no credit, and it will convert to a letter grade. So that was something that the university clarified, registrar clarified to us recently. Actually, we asked that. Let's see, there's another one that I wanted to get at. Oh, will we still be able to see our final grades? To the extent that they are accurate and updated in Canvas, certainly. And I think absolutely you could always ask your professor as well, for that information if you wanted to maybe try to petition for a revoke, depending on what the answer is. So you'll be able to see things like you normally would in Canvas, but I always encourage students to double check, because Canvas sometimes, there can be some adaptations to actual final grades. So either through Canvas or through asking your instructor, you could absolutely get that information.
So the next question is whether credit, no credit option carries over to the summer. And the answer to that is yes. Although, we haven't seen the formal announcement to students, we know that that's something that the university has already decided. There's a question about half semester classes up above there. Can you see it, Jess?
Yeah,
what about
and
half
I think
semester
that
classes in the.
And that was the one, so we clarify this because obviously the university announced this credit, no credit option after some spring classes had actually concluded. And the message we've been given is that you do still have the choice to go in and elect the credit, no credit for those classes that were half session that already finished, maybe a few weeks ago. And if you had gotten a letter grade, it would revert to credit, no credit. If you wanted to make that choice now, you do still have that option. So that is one situation where you kind of are able to make the decision with full information, which is obviously different than the full semester classes, but that was something the university decided they didn't want to push against that change for various reasons. And I just wanted to speak, someone asked, what are the downsides? So, I think in part, some of the downsides are simply to not sell yourself short. So if you're gonna get a B+ or an A or an A-, take that grade, right? Take that, take that boost to your GPA potentially, or take that, that really clear signal about your capability. It also, like I said, admission into majors, into programs will not in any way be disadvantaged if you selected credit, no credit. They're not going to count that against you in looking through your record. But it does mean that the folks who are doing that admission are going to need to look at other parts of your academic record to really feel good that you're going to be a successful student in that area. And so again, if you're doing pretty well, I'll share a brief story. Many years ago, I worked in another department on campus as an academic advisor. And I had a student who was one of those just 4.0. And he received in his junior year an A- in one class. And that drove him nuts for months. I would say if you are typically an A range student and you're, thinking I might get an A- in this class, an A- is an exceptional grade. Take that grade. Don't sell yourself short and just go with the credit, just to for the sake of that. So I think that it is, it's really, again, talk to your academic advisors or anyone that you trust. If you've got a faculty mentor or someone else that you've worked really closely with that knows your situation, knows your story, knows what you're dealing with in life right now, to kind of talk through these decisions as much as you can to really make the best one for you. But if it's simply that like, well, might as well just take the credit, even though I'm probably going to get, really good grades in all my classes, get those good grades. If you're performing at the level you normally perform at, take those letter grades, great. Like, there's no reason not to, I think, in that situation.
So one question, this was an interesting one. If a person has elected credit, no credit at the beginning of the semester, does that class count against the limit? Yeah, it's a tricky one.
That is a very good question. That I'm going to have to kind of punt on. I would say I could follow up, but probably the best thing I would recommend for that student, because I think this is probably a pretty rare situation, would be to reach out to the registrar's office. I think they're actually honestly the only ones who will know the answer, because it will have to do with their process on how they are tracking it. My gut tells me, just knowing like how our processes and back end of data systems work, is that it would be difficult to discern that in the way that they track the limit. And so my gut tells me that probably it would not count against the limit, but I would talk to the registrar's office to get definitive answer on that.
There is also a question about whether fall will be online, and we don't yet know that. We also don't know when they're planning to make an announcement about that. I think we're all kind of waiting to see how the curve flattens over the summer and hoping that we'll be able to start in person at least. And so I don't have an answer on when we're going to get information on that. And whether it'll be credit, no credit, or online, we still are waiting to get more information over the next couple of months.
It looked like there was a question about other scholarships, like the regents and trustees. I would, for those, reach out, to the university's scholarship office, since those are centrally funded scholarships. So for any scholarships outside of Eccles, I don't want to try to speak for other units because I'm not those units and I can't speak definitively for them. So if you have scholarships from any other sources, please reach directly out to whoever that funder is, whether it's another academic department or a program or the university centrally, to confirm what their policies are. And how is the 1 week deadline to revoke determined? I wish I knew exactly how some of these things got determined. I know that central campus administration folks have been meeting regularly, daily, literally, lots of people involved in these decisions. I have not been privy to them, so I cannot speak to exactly kind of how they made the timeline choices that they made. The main thing I can tell you is that I'm going to pass on all of the questions and concerns about it that I've heard from you all today. If I can find a link other than just the registrar's office, website, email, for contact for you all to reach out. If you have feedback and questions, I will pass that on and make sure that's on our communication and FAQ pages. So make sure that they hear these questions, but I unfortunately cannot answer or speak for them in terms of how they made the decisions they made about the deadlines. Oh yeah.
So there are a few questions that have come in that I think we've broadly touched on, so just maybe kind of restate the effects on entrance to some of our grad programs or some of our majors. We're getting a couple of those questions again, so maybe just reiterate how that will be affected.
Yeah, I think by way of summary, I'll say a few things on that. First, just as a reminder, if anyone joined in late or wasn't able to participate in the whole thing, this has been recorded, and so we'll be posting it, and this will be available on the Eccles School website on the COVID page, so you'll be able to go back through and watch anything that you might have missed. In particular, for things you might have missed, the main, I think, takeaway is that for the Eccles School, when it comes to admission into upper division, into individual majors or minors, or into our graduate programs, there will be no penalty. It won't be held against you at all that if you selected credit, no credit for any of your classes. And so you will still be eligible for all of the admission to all of those programs. If you chose credit, no credit, you will get all of your degree requirements can be filled. So there's no problem with selecting credit, no credit for any of your Eccles School degree requirements. And that's true for campus. So the same thing for gen eds and things like that as well. Eccles School scholarships are not at all impacted. So current scholarships that you have, there will not be any penalty or any problem if you choose credit, no credit, and you will still be eligible for future scholarships, just as you would have otherwise for credit, no credit. Credit, no credit does not have any impact on your GPA. And so you don't have to worry about, what that means. It simply is as if it doesn't exist for GPA purposes. Final point I did want to make, not directly related to this, but the idea for this session came from Blank, so from Business Leaders Incorporated, your student leadership. They were themselves experiencing, challenges, but also hearing from fellow students that there were questions and concerns and a lack of information or clear source of information about the credit, no credit. So first I want to thank Blank and the Blank leadership team for initiating this forum, but also just wanted to say that if you have ideas for other things that you want to know more about around this, anything that's changing or has been changing or will be changing, or any challenges or issues that you're experiencing this semester into the summer, and you think a forum on another topic would be useful, please don't hesitate to reach out to Blank on our website and suggest something for them as well. I'll also put a plug in, hopefully all of you received, we're conducting a survey of all of our students to try to understand more of how you're all dealing and the challenges you're facing during this period, how your online course experience has been so that we can improve it. And we're taking a lot of steps to change and improve things for the summer. It's very different to, have a month or so notice to create an online course versus switching midway through a semester. So, and then also asking about, future plans, what you're interested in, if you need any other information. So please do take the time to fill out that survey. And with the deadline, yes, it would be midnight, essentially 11:59 p.m. So deadlines are always, university kind of typically operates the end of the day. So the April 10th deadline would be at the end of the day. All right. Thank you, everyone. This is great. This is definitely the largest Zoom I've actively participated in. I've sat in and observed a few big ones, but this has been definitely an interesting experience. Hopefully, we're able to answer everyone's questions. Again, feel free to reach out through various contact channels. You can find my name and information on our website, as well as academic advisors and things like that. And this will be posted. We'll share this recording so that folks can come back to it when they need to. So. Thank you, and thank you, Rachel, for being my moderator and managing these questions.
All right, thanks, Jess.
Okay, take care.